All right, so you're thinking about a move to Australia. Great. Today, we're going to zoom in on one state that's really making some noise, South Australia. In this explainer, we'll break down all the official info to give you a super clear, practical guide on how you can actually make that move. Okay, let's get right into it.
So why South Australia, right? Well, let's start with this number, 27,860. That is the record-breaking number of overseas migrants the state welcomed in just the 2023-24 period. And listen, that's not just some random statistic. It's a huge flashing sign that the state is growing and it's actively looking for new people.
And that leads to the big question, doesn't it? How do you go from just thinking about it to actually packing your bags and settling down in Adelaide or one of the other amazing spots there? Let's unpack the main ways you can do it, starting with why the state actually wants you to come.
Okay, first things first, let's get into the why. This isn't just about people wanting to move. It's about a state that genuinely needs new people. You see, South Australia has this classic challenge. Its economy is growing fast, but its population is getting older. That creates a real, urgent need for fresh talent. We're talking both international students and skilled workers to fill some pretty critical gaps and, keep that growth going.
Now, one of the main tools South Australia uses to find that talent is something called state nomination. The easiest way to think about it is this. It's the state government basically tapping the federal government on the shoulder and saying, hey, we really need this person's skills, and then they sponsor your visa application. This gives you a massive leg up in the process, putting you on the fast track to fill a job they really need.
So for most people thinking about making the move, the journey really boils down to two main roads. You can either come as an international student, or you can come as a skilled worker to fill one of those in-demand jobs. Let's break down both of these, and we'll start with the student route.
And let me tell you, the student pathway is absolutely booming right now. South Australia just hit a new record with over 54,000 international student enrollments. This was no accident. The state has been working hard to become a top-tier education destination, and clearly, students from all over the world are taking notice.
So what's the big appeal? Well, it all comes down to some really smart incentives. The big one is that Adelaide is officially classified as a regional city for migration purposes. Now, that might sound technical, but what it means for you is huge. You get to stay and work for longer after you graduate, and you get extra points if you decide to apply for permanent residency down the line. Add in a lower cost of living compared to Sydney or Melbourne, and yeah, you can see why it's so attractive.
But, all this growth in student numbers has kicked off a pretty big national debate. The federal government, and you can see it here in this quote from the Treasurer Jim Chalmers, says that while they support the industry, they also want to manage that huge post-COVID spike and bring the numbers down to a more, quote, normal level.
And on the other side of that debate, you have the opposition leader, Peter Dutton, who connects the high number of international students directly to pressure on housing and public services. From this perspective, cutting back on student arrivals is a way to help ease the cost of living crunch for everyone.
But then the universities themselves have a completely different take. The CEO of Universities Australia, Luke Sheehy, warns that slashing student numbers would be like taking a sledgehammer to one of the country's biggest exports, an industry that brings in billions of dollars and supports hundreds of thousands of jobs.
So, with all this debate going on, where does that leave South Australia? Well, their strategy is actually pretty clever. They know national caps are coming, so instead of fighting it, they're focused on increasing their share of the students who do come. The plan is to really lean into their reputation for high-quality education, making sure they can still grow even as the national numbers get a bit tighter. Okay, let's switch gears to the other main path.
Right, so if studying isn't your plan, then listen up, because the skilled worker pathway is where the opportunities are just massive. This is all about matching your skills with the jobs that the local economy is crying out for.
And when I say crying out, I am not exaggerating. Check out this number, 351. That's how many different jobs are officially listed as being in shortage in South Australia right now. To give you some perspective, that's more than double what it was just back in 2021. The demand is real, and it is critical.
And we're not talking about obscure, niche jobs here. These are the foundations of any strong economy. We're talking about nurses and aged care workers, electricians and carpenters, chefs and software developers. In fact, the state recently said they had unprecedented interest from overseas chefs and nurses, way more applicants than they had visa spots for. And the government is putting its actions where its mouth is. Just look at the number of state nomination spots, those official invitations we talked about. They jumped from 2,300 to 3,800 in a single year. That is a huge signal that South Australia is serious about rolling out the welcome mat for skilled workers.
Beyond the standard visas, they also have this special tool in their back pocket called a DAMA. Basically, it's a special agreement that lets employers, especially in regional areas or in sectors like hospitality, sponsor workers for jobs that might not even be on the main skills list. It's more flexible, and it helps them fill those absolutely essential roles.
Okay, but let's be honest. For a lot of you watching, a temporary job isn't the final destination. The real goal is building a permanent future, right? So let's get to the most important part. How do all these opportunities lead to permanent residency, or PR?
So, what's your best bet? Well, think of it this way. The visas on the left are like the express lane to PR. Things like the state-nominated 190 or the regional 491 are given priority because you have a state or an employer literally vouching for you. The paths on the right, like the skilled independent 189 visa, are getting much, much harder to get because they don't have that direct link to what a specific state needs right now.
So let's just walk through one of the most popular routes, that regional 491 visa. It's actually a really clear step-by-step process. First, you get your skills and your English level officially assessed. Then you put your hand up by submitting an expression of interest online. If South Australia likes your profile, they'll nominate you. From there, you apply for the provisional visa, and once you've lived and worked in the state for 3 years, you can apply for permanent residency. Simple as that.
And the support doesn't just stop once you get your visa. The South Australian government is actually investing over $1.5 million into programs designed to help new migrants find jobs that actually use their skills. It's not just about getting you a job, it's about helping you build a real career.
So, there you have it. The opportunity in South Australia is absolutely undeniable. You've got record numbers, clear pathways, but as the state gets more popular, the competition gets tougher. The door is wide open, but you've got to be ready to walk through it. So the only real question left is, are you ready to take that first step?